Hello, everyone. This is Ifwa from She Leads Africa, and thank you for joining today's webinar on how to hire an army of high performers and, of course, keep them and motivate them to do great work. We're so excited to have an incredible female entrepreneur joining us. Chika is the CEO of Talentbase. So welcome, Chika.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to share all of your HR expertise with our community. So Chika, can you first just tell us a little bit about you, your company, and why you think HR is so important for young entrepreneurs?
Okay, so I run a software company called Talentbase, and before I joined Talentbase, I was an HR consultant for about 8 years. So I've literally done everything you can imagine when it comes to HR. So everything from recruiting candidates, and this includes entry-level positions, as well as higher-level positions that require a PhD. I've also done work in consulting, so helping organizations with change management, creating a culture, and also creating a performance management system. And then I also got a degree in HR from Georgetown, and wrote a thesis about how the workplace is changing in regards to millennials and baby boomers. And then finally decided to move to Nigeria and join Talentbase, and it is a software company. So we aim to work with SMEs who are looking for an affordable HR solution, and this covers across the HR board, so everything from payroll to recruiting to time and attendance to performance management. We do everything to automate HR. And for me, the reason why I believe HR is so important, especially for young entrepreneurs, is that a lot of times people don't understand that in order to grow great companies such as Facebook, such as Google, or even legacy companies like IBM, everything is based on your employees and your team, really. So making sure you not only hire the best, but also keeping them engaged. Lot of times people yes, I have all these people
Okay, it seems that Chika's connection got lost for a minute. I mean, I don't want to use any stereotypes, but we are in Africa, so these things happen. So we will just wait for her to get looped back in, and we'll keep the discussion going. Okay, Chika, are you back with us?
Yeah, sorry. Someone called in the middle and interrupted my connection.
Okay, cool, Visa. We're happy to have you back then. Now, we get comments from almost kind of every single entrepreneur that we work with, and even ourselves, we have struggles with finding the right people, and we all want to have top performers. We all want to have people who are really dedicated and passionate about the company and the mission, but it's really, 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 really hard to find them. So the first question that we want to discuss, Chika, is how do you find the right employees that are going to fit your company culture, you know, that really care about your values, that are passionate about what you're passionate about, that have the same work ethic? So how do you find them and make sure, or kind of how do you evaluate whether or not they'll be a good fit for your company?
Okay, so there's definitely a few things you can do. Number one thing I stress is that you actually have to create a culture. So a lot of times people complain, oh, I can't find great people. How do I entice them? How do I bring them in when I don't have much money to offer them? But really, the key is having a great culture. And this includes thinking about what culture do I want to create? Especially in Nigeria, I always go to any retail stores, mostly or restaurants, and I see Oga, Madam. If that's the culture you want, that's fine, but you're also gonna, find employees that tend to not be as engaged, tend to just literally see their position as a means to an end. If you instill that type of culture. So when I say culture, it's not as simple as what you can give them, but their work environment. How flexible are you with how they work? Can they be remote? Do they actually have to stay on the office? As well as, and be something simple. There was a startup company at work. They had happy hours actually in the office. So everyone brought drinks and food. And every Friday after around 5, when the workday closed, they actually all gathered in another room and did happy hours. And, that was something that everyone looked forward to. So I'll definitely say creating a culture, thinking about it, thinking about how you want your employees to address you as well. That's all part of creating an amazing culture as well. And there's tons of articles about it that talk about creating a culture, specifically a startup culture, which can be different from a bigger organization. And I think it's also important to create that culture from the early stages. So just 2 or 3 employees, start creating a culture with them there. And it can be as simple as them feeling like there's an open door policy. So they feel like if there's a concern or, maybe I'm not satisfied with my job for whatever reason, they feel like they could actually come and talk to you and they don't feel afraid. So I definitely believe setting that standard is number one. Then when it actually comes time to actually hire employees, I think there's a 2-step process. So number one is a lot of times questions such as, okay, I see on your resume you do X, Y, and Z. How long did you do these things? How did you acquire these skills? That's fine. And of course, you should ask them to just get clarification on the resume. But the truth is, people can make up things, people can lie, people can, exaggerate certain skills they have. So in order to eliminate all that, you need to ask behavioral-based questions. And the great thing about this system is you can literally Google behavioral-based questions or examples of behavioral-based questions, and literally a list of these questions pop up on the internet. Some of these questions include things as if I gave you 2 competing deadlines, how would you actually manage that? How well do you manage your time? Um, if a customer came with a complaint, how would you manage that complaint? So the difference between these questions and asking questions based off of what you see on the resumes, it actually shows their behavior, which is the main issue people have once they hire someone is, oh, they look great on resume, but once I hired them, they totally were different from what I saw on the resume. That's because you didn't actually assess their behavior and what they actually will do in certain situations. So I think it's very key that when you're asking questions, you also throw in behavioral-based questions. And I definitely think you will be able to filter down and get a higher success rate of actually retaining and getting the right employees. And then the second part of this interview process is also doing some type of assessment. So it can be as simple as personality tests. And I think it's really important. And one of the most popular ones is Myers-Briggs. And so, for example, I am an EFNJ. And it really talks about your emotions, your feelings, your judgment. I mean, there's different types of Myers-Briggs outcomes, but it also shows you the type of people you can work with. So also, if you do these personality tests, you can also give this off to future employees to make sure that you have the right team that works with you best. So I definitely believe first behavioral-based questions and then assessments. Oh, also assessments can also be you writing samples or even case studies. So if you have, let's say you run a store and you're looking for an operational manager, you can actually give them some type of assessment to see if they actually can handle operations or handle customers well. So one person I was working with, she created 4 customer examples of everyday problems that she tends to face. And then she asked her, the candidates that were applying for this position, to actually write how they would solve these customer complaints. So I think that's really a great example, as well as not only asking them what's on the resume, but engaging them and just looking at different ways they solve things, their behavioral, and just based on what their personality type is as well.
Got it. That's very helpful. Going beyond just the resume piece is critical, because not only will some people lie, just some people aren't good in regular interview situations. So you want to give them other opportunities to show their skills or their techniques, and giving someone a live situation or maybe an assignment can help you peel back. So in case the person isn't the best public speaker or they get very nervous, but they can still do the work, you're able to see that instead of just the traditional interview model. Yeah.
Yes,
Now, Chika, do you have a favorite interview question that you ask, you know, to kind of peel back the layers and see what people are really like?
So lately, the last time I hired someone, I was looking for an office manager. And something interesting that I started doing is actually looking on Twitter. Twitter is actually a great tool to find potential candidates, depending on the position. Not all positions are good for Twitter. And one question I love asking is, if there was a lion in the room, what would you do? And I love this question because it actually not only just shows, you know, how expansive their mind is, but also shows their creativity. So obviously, I'm looking for key things. If I notice that you're just saying, "Oh, I would run" or "I scream," I mean, then obviously you're not the type of employee for my organization, because I need someone who will stretch themselves and be able to think quickly on their feet. So I'm always looking for someone who can answer that question very creatively, can kind of walk me through a story, or be able to get me from point A to B on how they would solve that problem. So really, I'm looking for also problem solving skills as well when I ask that.
Okay. If there was a lion in the room, no, I don't know. I would think about that one. So me personally, you know, before I started using it in interviews. But I think that's a really great idea. So kind of, you mentioned problem solving was something that you're always looking out for when you're trying to build like a strong team and get people really working well together. What are some things that entrepreneurs should look out for, or some things that they can do to build that camaraderie, or they can build that accountability and make sure that people are actually working well together?
Okay, so for that, you're actually who's a collaborative. So someone who works well on teams, and someone who can also lead teams as well. Just because their employee doesn't mean, or whether they're entry level or whatever position they are, there are times that you want them to lead as well. So number one, when you're looking at their resume, look out for times that they were part of a team. And I'm not talking just as simple as they work somewhere. Maybe they did volunteer work. Maybe they did something that stand out during NYSC, or maybe they were a leader for a school organization or an outside organization. So I would definitely look for patterns of that, because that means that they're used to working with different types of teams as well. And then the second thing as well is also creating an atmosphere where they can collaborate. And when I say that, I mean, so for small organizations, a lot of times you don't want them working in silos. So you don't want them working in cubicles. If you're looking for where it's just one table, a long table, and then everything around. That's great, especially for startup companies, because when you environment, people can easily bounce off ideas off each other, questions as well, and they're forked. So I think that's also key, as well as creating, not only looking for patterns in the resume where they're collaborative on a team, but also creating a work environment that creates that as well. So if you're not creating a work environment where they can easily talk to each other, easily ask each other questions, challenge each other, lead, then obviously you're not going to have a collaborative environment.
So Chika, what if you already had a company and like you noticed that people weren't like working well together, and you're not starting from scratch, right? You want to try and introduce some new things to get people connected. And I know it can be really, really hard to change people's behavior and to get them to try new things. So do you have any, like, do you have an opinion around incentives for kind of incentivizing people for performance that isn't directly related to like the bottom line? So like being collaborative and working well together, it can help you be, you know, develop a better product, but it's not directly related to sales, you know, how you could measure. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not that's a good approach, or do you just have to use leadership and communication skills to start to create that environment?
Okay, for that, I think there's two ways to look at it. Not number one, so this is a top-down approach. When I say that, I mean, so you as CEO or founder of your organization, you need to be able to get down with that's the best expression I can, really, in like boutique stores or restaurants or retail. So like I'll go to a restaurant and I'm like, where is the founder? Where? And this is early on. I'm not saying you always have to be at that location. But if you're actually not with your team on a day-to-day basis and, you know, working through their problems with them, trying to make sure that the environment is collaborative, then why do you expect your employees to do that on their own? Because they don't see you doing it. They don't see you working with them hand in hand. So you can't expect the same thing. So I think definitely if you're looking for an environment where it's collaborative, where people are working well together, then you need to be actually part of that process. Then number two is actually putting this on their KPIs. So if being in a collaborative environment is important to you, also communicate that with them. So when you're creating your appraisal system, a performance management system, or you're doing one-on-ones, which I can talk about later, actually make it very clear that, you know, this is actually important to me, that I see that you're collaborative. You're going to be, you know, whether it's scored or observed or looked upon on this. So actually write this down with your KPIs when you're discussing, you know, metrics as well, that, you know, being in a collaborative environment, being able to work on a team is just as important to me as, you know, you being able to drive sales or to be able to drive referrals or whatever position entails.
Great. I think that's a really important point, and we actually had a comment from Tunde Aribito, and he mentioned the importance of kind of you as the leader having to demonstrate the qualities that you're looking for. So as you mentioned, if you want people to be collaborative, we also have to make sure that we're demonstrating those skills. So kind of when potential candidates are looking at the company, they're going to be using their own value system and say, okay, are they practicing what they preach, and is there consistency around the line as well? So thank you, Tunde, for that comment. Now, Chika, say you've gotten some really great employees and they're performing well at the beginning, you know, of course, but maybe morale starts to decline or people aren't as engaged or motivated. Kind of what advice would you give on how to make sure that people kind of feel like they're part of the team, that the work that they're doing actually contributes to the company's success, and they stay motivated and focused on the major goals, you know, after their first 6 months, after the excitement dies down, and they continue to participate and be full members of the team?
Okay, so for this, again, there's a few methods that you can do to make sure employees stay engaged and motivated and just overall keep morale high. So number one is that when you're talking about the vision and, oh, we're great at this and we do this all in the beginning of the candidate's interview process, make sure to carry them along during the company's wins, but also the company's losses. So number one is communication. I think a lot of companies, especially in this environment, don't keep happening in the organization, especially when the economy is so difficult right now. So for example, it's as simple as, I know a lot of companies may not be paying their employees on time for whatever reason. Don't just allow the payment date to come and go. I don't think that's good practices. And you're doing this, 2 or 3 times. Definitely this is gonna draw or lessen the employees' morale. So just be honest and communicate that, and you'll be actually shocked on what they actually say or their reaction to it. So I think them being in the loop, and then also wins as well. So for example, we're a software company, we sell things, but we're also startups. So we may, pitch at an event. So when we pitch at an event and we did well, we share that with the company. So we also say, hey, come out and watch us. We're going to pitch at this competition. But if they weren't able to attend for whatever reason, we also, come in. Maybe we got a big check. We actually show it off at the office, so they can actually see that their work is contributing to something bigger than themselves. So, with having, tools to keep them engaged. So we have HipChat, and HipChat is an instant messenger tool that pretty much it's on your computer, and you literally can send messages across to you can create teams. So let's say you have a sales team, maybe a marketing team. You can create teams, and you can all be discussing, whatever in your instant messenger HipChat. And so when we have that, it's also a tool for me to check in on employees. Hey, how you doing? You can send them funny gifts, emojis, and keep it really lighthearted as well. So, also using communication tools as well. So you're actually keeping a pulse. The last thing I'm going to say is that when you do performance management, the problem I see is that you cannot only do it annually or biannually and expect amazing results with your employee. Because can you imagine you hired someone and then 6 months later, that's the first time you're actually seeing what is going on. How are they performing, red flags, challenges. I think that's just way too late in the game. And a lot of times, if 6 months goes down the road and they're unhappy, they're most likely going to leave. So I definitely say you need to do constant check-ins. It can be informal. So sometimes I literally, let's say I'm at the coffee shop with one of my team members. I may just ask them right there, how are you feeling? What's going on? Is there anything I can do to make your job easier? And a lot of times it's actually very revealing to me. And also it's a time for me to get feedback as a leader as well. So that's really another way to constantly keep engaged with your employees, not just some one-off performance management and doing one-on-ones, and constantly keeping a pulse on how your employees are feeling.
Now, Chika, we got a question from Ruth, and she said that over the past 2 years, her turnover has been very high. And of course, that can be very expensive and time consuming, recruiting new employees, training them, bringing them up to speed. So kind of based on what you just shared, how would you encourage Ruth to either kind of think about her company environment and kind of what she can do to reduce turnover or incentivize staff members to stay on longer?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know what type of company you're running, Ruth, but I would definitely say, number one, again, look at the culture. Look at, and it could be, most of the time, if you're having high turnover, it's probably coming from the top. So from leadership, meaning something that the leaders are doing in the organization, or whoever is leading the organization may not be conveying the right message. and therefore they don't see the need to stay. Number two, one fact that people need to realize that I found when I was doing my thesis is that millennials are not only looking for money. They're also looking to work with a company that's bigger than themselves. They're looking for a company that has a vision and something they can see long term. So also look back at your mission. What do you stand for? What are your values of your organization? Do you even have values? And if you do have values for the organization, is it clearly being showcased to the employees? So a lot of times with startup companies, I've actually walked into the office and seen the values written all over the room. And when they talk to the employees, when they talk to candidates, they talk about those values as well. So making sure that you hire employees that match the values that you're trying to convey in your organization, but also the values being constantly reminded to all the employees as well. So I think those few things are important. So I think it's something deeper. It's not just as simple as, oh, my employees are leaving. I think at that point, if it's high, it's probably due to the culture, leadership, or just in general, the employees in the organization don't really see value. They don't see a vision. They don't see something that's bigger than themselves. And I think that's important, especially when you're hiring millennials. And millennials are anybody between the ages of 18 to about 31, 32. So if you're hiring anybody in those ranges, those are considered millennials, and they definitely have a different outlook in life than people who are much older than them.
Great. So Chika, you mentioned some of the things that millennials are looking for, and it's not just about money. So both Kathy and Ehi have said, they don't have a lot of money. They can't compete with big companies in terms of hiring and recruiting really strong talent. So what advice would you give them in terms of other perks or ways they can structure the employee compensation package to provide other things that might be of value or interest to their employees?
Okay, so you do not have to have a big budget to hire the best of the best. To be honest, with my company, we are a startup company, so we do not have all these funds to pay, arm and leg just to keep employees. But yet, literally, we've kept everybody. I can only think of one employee that left, and that was because they moved, not necessarily because of the organization. So number one, and it'd be small things. So let's say there's a win, you guys were able to close a sale or a deal. Having a small dinner with everybody, or taking them out to lunch, showing them appreciation. So for one of my friends who runs a hair company, every now and then she takes her employees on a retreat. And so that's like doing their nails, mani-pedi, spa, and just showing like some type of appreciation. Another thing could be giving them some type of like loyalty cards. So if they did well on something, or you just want to say, look, I'm really, thankful for you for being here, for being part of this organization. There's definitely lots of places around Lagos or in Abuja where you can actually buy like a little gift card and give to the employee as well for them to redeem on their own. Or giving them like a loyalty card as well. So just giving them like little things and being consistent with it also can be a way to kind of offset the lack of salary as well. So it doesn't have to be something big. I think just constantly showing appreciation and simply saying thank you. It sounds like, okay, so I should just say thank you, but you'll be surprised the way I've seen people talk to their employees here in Lagos or here in Nigeria. It's very demeaning, to be honest. And they talk to them as if they're stupid. So I think you definitely need to show appreciation. Say thank you. Just also be patient with them as well. I think all those things are important with engaging your employees and giving them perks.
Got it. That's really helpful. So, Chika, the next one that we want to look into is, say you found some good employees, but you want to track their performance and you want to develop a culture that's really around feedback and helping people improve so that it's not just them doing the job they have today, but they really know that you're invested in their growth and development. So what advice would you give about setting up like a feedback culture, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in it and you want that to be part of your company? And what tools can you use to track employee performance and kind of bring them along, you know, in terms of the work that they do and where the company is going?
So with creating feedback, again, this has to be a top-down approach. So don't just be the type of leader that gives feedback all the time. You also need to take feedback as well from your employees so you know what's going on, how you can improve. So if you're going to be a organization that's setting feedback culture, it needs to happen to both ways. So it needs to be happening, it has to be a two-way channel. Some tools just right off the back I can think of. One startup I worked at, it was called 15.5. And what it did was that it was 5 questions that you asked employees every week, and it could be completed in 15 minutes. So this was really it's a really quick tool that some employees can just fill out every week. And basically the questions were asked in such a way that you are getting feedback from them. So some of the questions would be, you know, how were you feeling this week? Did you feel challenged? Were there any obstacles that were happening? You know, as a leader, what can I do to help you do your job better? So it's a really great tool. And if you don't have the funds to get something like that yet, you don't have to necessarily buy 15.5. You can literally use Google Docs, and it's great because you can share Google Docs with your employees. So every week, you can write down, you know, questions that you want your employees to fill out, and then when you receive it back, then it also helps you as well get feedback and on a constant basis. And you can decide, I want to do this weekly, monthly, something like that. I would say do at least weekly or monthly. I wouldn't wait for a quarter to get some constant feedback like that. And another way you could get feedback is one-on-ones. So the company I was working with, they use that 15.5 tool to actually do weekly one-on-ones. And these one-on-ones were with the CEO himself, and then they also were with the different line managers. So if your company has gotten to a point where maybe you have like 20 employees and you have maybe a manager to managing their employees, not only should that feedback channel be happening with you as a leader, but also with the managers as well, so they kind of know what's happening. Also, another tool is if, depending on the size of your organization, you may have gotten to the point you want to do performance management. So definitely my software does that. At Talentbase, we have a performance management appraisal system, and it's based off of KPIs. So being able to measure certain KPIs that they should be aspiring to reach you can set it to every month, you can set it quarterly, and you can also set it annually. And then another tool within the software is also goals. So you can actually set goals daily, weekly, monthly, and you can actually see in the system what percentage they've reached at a certain point. And the employee can create their own goals. You can set goals for them, but you can also create company goals. So I think it's really important as well that not only does the employee see goals for themselves, but also overall company goals as well.
Great. That is very helpful. Now, Chika, one challenge that I know a lot of people face, we face it, is that when you put out a request for applications, you know, you get 100, 150, these people are not qualified. You don't even want to look through those ones, right? So kind of what advice would you get about just managing the inflow of all the different applications you can get, and maybe some better ways to recruit talent so that it's not just an open call, that you're really finding people with the skills that you're looking for. And then once you find them, you're able to effectively interview them and, you know, get them on board.
Recruiting, it's an amazing experience, right? So what I would say is, before I even get to the actual how to better control the recruiting aspect, referrals. A lot of people underestimate the referral system. So not as simple as, oh, hey team, I'm looking for a software developer, help me find one. But actually creating a referral program can actually be really good for organizations. I tend to find that referrals seem to be the best. And I know in my organization, I believe everyone there was somewhat of a referral. So, and it's definitely been working out for us. So not only asking your employees, hey, can you help, look for certain candidates or people out there, but you can also create a referral program. And let's say someone brings in a great candidate that ends up staying for a year or two. You can also incentivize that and give your employees, whether it's little gift cards or dinner or whatever perk you want to give them for actually bringing in great candidates. So I think that's something that a lot of people underestimate. Number two is, so in order to do recruitment properly and you're getting to the point where you're getting a lot of applicants, number one, be very specific of where you want to advertise your position. So if you do want a lot of candidates, go to Jobberman. But the con with Jobberman is that everyone knows Jobberman. So everyone's going to apply and you're going to get a lot of resumes. And most of the time, the people applying to Jobberman positions are not even, they don't have the skill set, or they didn't even look at the job per se of, do they even qualify for that job? So I think you need to be careful on where you actually advertise your job. There's great organizations like Move Me Back, and they work with a specific type of candidate and it's very qualified. So I tend to notice that the candidates that apply on that website tend to be a better stock or better breed of qualified candidates, because at this point they've been also getting an applicant tracking system. So once again, that's what our software does, a Talentbase, and it's a recruiting applicant tracking system. So for people who don't know what that means, that actually means it takes you through the whole process from candidates applying to the end when you finally decide, I want this candidate. So number one, they apply on the website through the software. Number two, once you get all the candidates, it actually allows you to filter. So you can filter the type of resumes you're looking at. So maybe you're looking for a software developer who has a skill set in HTML5. And you can actually type in that word and it pulls up all the resumes that have that skill set. You can also shortlist and decline candidates. So in this system, you're able to say, yes, I like that candidate because they have these skill sets, and it will save it for a later time. And then declining just automatically means I don't like what these candidates are showing me in their resumes, and then it declines them. And then also has a candidate history on the side. So a lot of times, especially for entry-level positions, you're going to notice the same candidate applying again and again, and it can get very irritating to read the same resume a million and one times. So right away, it has a candidate history profile, so you can see, oh, this candidate applied for this position, and I already declined them. So there's no need for me to even look further in the resume. And then it also goes through the pre-screening as well as interviews. So a lot of times, most people do like a pre-screen, then they do interview round 1, round 2. So it literally takes notes of all those times that you've interviewed the candidate. So you can also share it with other people, share it with other leaders in the organization, and literally be able to track the full recruiting cycle. So I would definitely recommend, it could be Talentbase, it could be another software, there's other applicant tracking systems out there, but make sure that if you're getting to the point where you're getting like hundreds of resumes, you probably need an applicant tracking system that can streamline that whole process.
That is really helpful, Chika. So we're going to wrap this up, and I would love to hear from you kind of what's the most important lesson that you've learned as a leader, as a manager, as a CEO, that you always try to think about when it comes to managing your employees and making sure that they're performing well.
I will say for this environment, when I say this environment, the Nigerian environment, is just being a model of what you want your employees to portray. And I can't really stress this enough. I know I spoke about this earlier, but I see it all the time. And, fortunately for me, I've been in HR for so long. So a lot of times when I'm walking into a store or walking or meeting on a potential client, I always have my HR hat. I always scan the environment, look at the type of people that are working at the organizations. I look at the leaders and I evaluate all that. And I can right away tell, you know, what type of organization you're trying to run. So I would definitely say model what you want your employees to be able to work well in teams, be creative, all these amazing things you want, you need to show that first. And I don't think if you're running a startup company and you're in the beginning stages of your organization, don't just set up a boutique and then be chilling somewhere, wherever you're traveling, going to London, whatever you're doing. I don't think that just is proper. It doesn't make sense. And you can't expect your employees to be top level employees if you're not with them on a day-to-day basis, seeing what's going on, working with them, sharing your wins, sharing the losses of the organization. I think you need to be right there with them. So I think that's really important. And then number 2 is work environment. So also, where are they working? A lot of places I go to, it's dim lighting. The facilities are not that great. So you can't expect, you know, especially employees who are coming from mainland or Aja, wherever they're coming from, they drove 4 hours, you know, to come work with you, and then the environment is less than, you know, poor. So I think you definitely need to create a fun environment. You need to create an environment where people are looking forward to actually working every day, and it being comfortable as well. So just a place where employees feel like I'm energized, I leave my work energized because I'm really excited to work for this company. That's we'll also create a work environment as well that facilitates that, because a lot of people, especially here in this economy, they're dealing with a lot. You know, sometimes I ask my employees, what's going on with you? And I hear some really, you know, sad stories. So you need to be aware that that your team may be going through something you don't know, as well. And so just be there for them, be empathetic, just be willing to listen and hear them out. And like I said, this is different than excuses. I know sometimes you start hearing all these excuses. I'm talking about really being there for your employee and just asking them and just getting a pulse of what they're feeling as well.
Perfect. So we should have a heart and we should be ruthless.
Yes.
When it comes
have a heart.
to managing our employees. Well, thanks so much, Chika, for taking the time to chat with us. Now, and if anybody watching this is interested in learning more about you or Talentbase, where can they find you and where can they learn more?
So I'm very social media savvy. So I would say number 1, I'm on Twitter. Even though I'm not, it doesn't look like I'm there as much anymore because I'm always running around. I am there. So I don't know if there's a way we can send a link, but so my Twitter name is literally my first and last name. So if you saw the flyers for this, literally just put Chika Uwazie, and that's my Twitter name, that's my Instagram name. So I'm very active on those. You can always ask me questions or tweet at me if you need more advice or you just want to learn more about what we do here at Talentbase. And then Talentbase is literally talentbase.ng. That's our website. You can learn more about us. If you you know, need any of the tools I spoke about today, we're more than happy to do a free demo for you and talk more about what we're doing at Talentbase. We're doing a lot of amazing things, and we're affordable. That's what I'll say, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a software, it's probably really expensive, but we actually mostly work with SME on the type of companies we work with. I can't hear you.
Okay. Making sense now. Well, thanks so much, Chika. Thank you, everyone. We'll put this up on our YouTube page and on our website so you can refer back to it. And definitely stay connected to She Leads Africa so that you can get access to more great experts like Chika and hopefully grow and build a really successful business. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.